introduce somebody now that is a former employee of the Department of Agriculture. He was a superintendent of research stations for quite some time. A little bit of a character. If you get to know this man, he's got a really good sense of humor. So we brought him back to lead the IMPEC program, which is improving meat production and efficiency. And I thank the members of the legislature for their vision and allocating money to the IMPEC program. And what it's about is, when we saw the shortage of protein on the shelves in the grocery store, of course demand went up at the local level. The problem was that demand got to the point that when farmers took their protein sources to be processed, the wait got up to a year, which is basically unacceptable, and it was nobody's fault. It was just the demand got out there. We knew going into this that we didn't have the slaughter capacity in North Carolina to be adequate when this demand went up. So we did attempt to increase slaughter capacity in North Carolina for our protein sources. I've got to say that it's been hugely successful. A lot of the people that participated in the grant program probably upped their efficiency and production by as much as 40%. That's the good news. The bad news is that the grocery stores still have a lack of protein, and that demand has grown to the point that there's more need for a program. So we're going to go back with an additional $17 million that was allocated by the legislature to do even more than we have done the first time. We spent $27 million the first go-rounds to do this, but it's just not adequate. So I'm proud to have more grant money. And I'm going to ask Joe Hampton to come up to the stage with the panel and to lead this discussion about the IMPEC program. And you're going to hear from people that have actually used the program and what it's meant to their productivity and efficiency. And the goal is that we are going to have more farmers producing the protein supplies, selling directly to the public. I can tell you that we have a meat handler program in the department that is under our meat inspection program. And I think when I came into office, we had about 4 or 5 in this program. Today that number, I haven't seen the current numbers on this, but I would guess that it's getting closer to 2,000. So it's been a hugely successful program, but thank you legislators for the opportunity to help folks in this business. We want to grow the business, and we want to hold on to that local demand that we see out there right now. So Joe, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner, and I was pretty good at being retired. It was actually the best job I've ever had, and I was good at it. And this is probably the only job that would talk me out of being retired, because it's something that I really believe is a problem, and it's something that we can address. I will restate what the Commissioner said. In the spring of 2020, I saw something that I really never expected to see, and that's retail facilities that had empty shelves. And being a member of the agricultural community, that's just not something that I thought would ever happen in North Carolina, and it did. And I applaud the leadership of our Department of Agriculture for seeing this problem, knowing that there would be some CARES money from the federal government that would be available, and put together a program that we call the IMPEC program to address this. Now, let me say without any question, no one thinks that our big production agriculture system is wrong. We need that system. It's a system that produces food efficiently. It uses resources appropriately. We need to continue to support that. But food is something that's important enough that we need redundancy in it. We don't need to replace the system that we have, but we need to give people more options. That's producers more options and consumers more options. And that's what the IMPEC program is doing. The fourth people that we will hear from today is a cross-section of the group that received the grants. And let me tell you just a little bit about the grants. They required matching funds. So everyone that participated, and we had over 70 participants, they had to put their money into it as well. The diversity runs from one end of the state to the other. Every commodity, we eat seafood, pork, small ruminants, cattle, all of those things were involved. And our speakers today lived through that time. They were the ones that were getting calls asking for their services whenever they didn't have the facilities to provide those services. I've talked to many of these folks, and they would have liked to taken on more product, but they were operating at capacity. And so now we're 2 years into the program, and we're going to hear the progress that's been made. The four speakers, I'm not going to introduce them except to tell you who they are and where they're from. And the intent is that they will tell you a little bit about their business. And I think that's symbolic because in our program, we didn't tell the companies what they needed to do. We thought they knew more about processing than we did. We asked, what can we do to help you? And they identified their needs, and then we worked with them on doing that. Those of you that know me well know that I didn't do this. I see the folks sitting down here that did. Kelly, I don't know where you are. Sam, Allison, they're the ones that really made this program work. My job is to get up in front of the group and tell folks what we did. And so that's my contribution. So we're going to start with Seth Church. I've known Seth and his family for a lot of years. They operate in the Wilkes County area, the foothills of North Carolina. Seth? Be fine? This mic on? Hello?
As Joe said, my name is Seth Church from Wilkes County, North Carolina. First and foremost, it is an honor and a privilege to be here today to represent Wilkes Abattoir. It's also been an honor and a privilege to be a part of IMPEC. I'm a fourth generation livestock producer from North Carolina. I am very new to the meat business, or at least the meat processing business. I purchased Thomas Brothers Abattoir in North Wilkesboro, a Talmadge Atkins plant built in the late 1960s. Purchased that in May of 2019. So when COVID brought many challenges, I was still very new, maybe 8 months into this meat processing. And our biggest challenge that COVID brought for us was demand for our services processing. Prior to February of 20, prior to COVID, if a customer called and wanted a beef harvested, about 6 weeks lead time. I could give you an appointment in 6 weeks. Currently, today, we're booked for all of 2022 and only a few spots left in 2023. We saw that happen from 6 weeks to 1 year happen in just a few days in February and March. The phone did not stop. In addition to our abattoir side of the business, we also have a small retail store, and that was located at our original facility in Thomas Brothers. As we've heard here today, and we all experienced, grocery stores ran short of food. Customers saw empty shelves, the media publicized it. My plant's located in a residential neighborhood with a small side street leading down to it. We had customers lined up in cars on Fridays and Saturdays for a retail store. Could not get in the parking lot, and they lined up down the residential neighborhood. This was just another challenge. This, coupled with our care for worker safety and not allowing anyone in the retail store, CDC, FSIS guidelines, we did curbside, which required additional labor. Enough. So we're all familiar with a long list of challenges that COVID brought us, but IMPEC helped us meet these challenges. The improvements we made to our abattoir, to our business through IMPEC would have been a daunting and likely insurmountable challenge without the assistance of IMPEC. First and foremost, it gave us confidence that we could do it. Whether it had been the conversation I've had with Joe many times, he'd call, see how things were going, and he could probably hear it in my voice, the stress, I don't know what we're doing here, I don't know how we can go on with this much business. He said, you're doing a great job, keep up the good work, let me know if I can help. We got a vote of confidence from all of NCDA and all of our state government when they provided us these IMPEC funds. They knew we could make a difference. They believed that we could make a difference, and we did with their help. For my personal project at our abattoir, because of its location that I mentioned earlier, we actually determined that we could best meet needs if we moved our processing, the cutting and packaging, to another location, as well as the retail. So now what we have through IMPEC is we have our harvest in our original facility. We have our cutting and packaging done at a separate location, and that houses our retail store also. Through IMPEC, we got new equipment, better work environment for our staff, safer equipment, much more efficient. Production began for us at our new facility September 20th, 2021. So we've been there a little over 4 months now. Moving this processing away from our original harvest facility and this expanded and this new equipment gave us a 32% increase in animal harvesting in the 3-month period from October through the end of December. So when we compared, and for all of my statistics, we compared October, November, and December of this year with the average of the 2 previous years. I've only owned the plant 3 years, so we had 3 years to work with. Our increased processing, cutting, and packaging increased in that same time period by 24%. Now, those numbers, some may wonder why they don't are not proportionate, and I'll get to that in just a minute. With the moving of our retail side of it to offer our community a place to purchase local proteins, North Carolina produced, we received a very warm welcome. In that 3-month period, our retail increased by 116% over the 3-month average from the 2 previous years. We did all this at Wilkes Abattoir with 100% workforce retention and a 50% workforce increase. As I mentioned earlier, we had the 32% increase in harvest, but only 24% in processing. That is due because we wanted to help as many people in the community as possible. And part of what we've done there is we do harvest service for what we refer to as retail exempt plants. These are plants located in communities in the area that are inspected for the cutting and packaging for retail sales out of their store or for producers to take on for their own consumptions, but they lack harvest capability. So we harvest the animals and we transport the carcass to them. So not only did IMPEC directly impact my business in my immediate community, but it's impacted other businesses as well. We currently harvest for 2 additional plants other than our own, and we have 2 more of those scheduled to begin this spring. While we've made many improvements, we still have many challenges. We're still personally at my plant challenged by a lack of a modern harvest facility. The size and scale of it, built in the late 1960s, we're still struggling to meet demand. We see no reason demand will go away anytime soon. Second one is something that we heard earlier from Mr. Brown, labor, and specifically immigration. We have capable workers that continually show up and would like to come on board with their staff, but they lack the proper documentation for me to employ them. And from what little bit of research I've done for them to obtain that documentation, it seems a daunting task for them and much more expensive than they can afford on their economic level. So these are just a couple of the challenges that I personally have still.
Thank you, Seth. Our next speaker represents the Mitchell plant, also in the western part of the state. Christy is here with us. Her family's also here, and that makes the point that these are 4 family-run operations. Having visited in many of these plants, it is the entire family that's involved with it. So, Christy?
I'm Christy Mitchell. My husband Carl also runs the plant with me, but I get to be the one to speak today. So in 2018, I was about 6 months ahead of Seth over here. I bought Mitchell's Meat Processing. I was a school principal in Stokes County. Lots of doors were closing there. Lots of doors were opening when I started talking to Jerry about purchasing Mitchell's. The last name I think helped as well, so we kept the name. It is just sort of flown right into us. Carl was a cooperative extension agent. He was a livestock agent and became director in Stokes County. And through his work, we realized if Mitchell's went down, our whole community and the surrounding counties and Southern Virginia would be out a USDA plant. With only 7 of us currently, going to be 8 hopefully soon, there is not enough of us. There are not enough of us to cover the needs. So Carl jumped on board in August of 2019. We saw a lot of growth in the first year of taking over, and I needed him to help me. I run the business portion. He sort of does all the operations and the construction. In that first year, we added on a new processing room. We did that with just cash on hand, holding bills, what bill to pay, what bill to hold, so that we could add capacity on our own, not knowing what was about to happen in 2020. When 2020 hit, I'm just like Seth. We went from we can get you in next week to we can get you in next year. So right now, I don't know if he's experiencing this, but we're seeing a lot of really big cows coming in that have waited a whole extra year to come in than when they normally would. So again, just like Seth said, we are booked for 2022. We are mostly booked for 2023. All of our regulars have all their spots reserved. January, I don't think I can squeeze one more person in. So things look really good for meat processors right now, but we are out of space. We are processing at capacity. The IMPEC grant really helped us. We increased by 20% on harvest. Just with beef, we didn't look at our lamb or pork numbers. We sort of slipped those in just when we have time. But we saw a 20% increase in beef per day. We were scheduling 10, we're scheduling 12 now per day. We used to schedule 2 to 3 days a week. Now we're a full 4 days, sometimes 5, depending on how many little animals we have. So our building is 50 years old last year, 51 this year. We updated all of our equipment. So our equipment was about 50 years old as well as the building. So the IMPEC grant, like Seth said, we were facing insurmountable upgrades. There was no way we could buy a $121,000 machine on our own. But IMPEC allowed us to get these new modern machines, packing machines, mixer grinders, things to help us speed up. So where we can harvest more animals now we can process more animals as well. But we're at capacity. There is no room in our cargo schooler because we are killing at capacity. Our beams are failing because we have so much weight on them. We cannot cube meat, run hamburger, or run the patty machine at the same time because we have no more places to put plugs, no more space to put machines. If we use the hamburger patty machine, we wheel it in. When it's done, we wheel it out of the room and then plug in the cuber and cube. So there is no 6 feet at Mitchell's. There is no space. We are a very close, happy family, and so are all of our carcasses, because we have, through the IMPEC grant, been charged with the job of getting more meat in, getting more meat to people. We can't do any more. So I looked at my waiting list. I missed 22 animals in December that I couldn't put on. I didn't have any cancellations. 41 people were missed in January on the wait list, and I have 76 in February, not counting all the people that are coming over from January. We can't do it. So our solution, looking at more IMPEC grants, looking at more federal grants, is we need more space. We are lucky. We retained all of our employees. We have a 50% increase in employees just to meet the demand. We have labor. We have people who will come to work with us, which I know doesn't match what he just said, but we have it. We don't have space. So what we're looking for is, in another round of grants, the opportunity to build a new place that can maybe run 2 harvest floors and 3 processing floors, because we have, obviously with our data, the people there, we have the animals there that can do that. We've been in talks with our county commissioners. We have been talking with where we could find land to do this, how we could make this feasible between the county and our plant, what kind of a partnership we could have. Watauga County is doing something very similar, so we're basing stuff off of what they've done with their IMPEC grant, trying to meet the need that is in our area. The other thing is, we didn't have retail. March 22 provided us an opportunity for retail as well. We are in a residential little side street. You drive by people's houses to come to us. And we lucked out, got a space on Main Street in Walnut Cove. It was 10% of our income for 2021 because we had so much retail traffic. So people don't want the grocery store anymore, but we can only do so much because we're doing all of our other customers. So we thank IMPEC because we were able to increase so much. There's just so much more to do, and that is the hardest part, when you have to tell people no, because it seems like it's not stopping. So that's our story.
Thank you, Christy. We're going to move to the eastern part of the state and talk about seafood a little bit. We're going to start with Pamela Cove Packing and Mr. Doug Cross.
Good morning. My name is Doug Cross. I own Pamela Cove Packing Company in Pamela Cove County, North Carolina. I'm originally from Raleigh. We actually bought Pamela Cove Packing in 1972. The business itself has been in operation since 1941. We went from a strictly wholesale packing operation to a vertically integrated operation, and now we actually have the product off the boats all the way to the final user, and especially in a lot of retail outlets and a lot of food service, different distributors. Our task is somewhat different from what you've heard before. We're challenged in 2 ways. We're challenged, number one, in that we produce wild product and that we are seasonally driven. So we can't schedule out. We can't basically plan what we're going to do all year because we don't know exactly what's going to happen during the seasons. So we're basically always looking to improve our production capacity in the shortened seasons that we have to deal with. Our second challenge is labor. We are labor restricted on the eastern part of the state, and we're always looking at ways to help out with that shortage. So IMPEC has been invaluable in allowing us to purchase equipment that has expedited our production in these small windows when we're actually producing shrimp or flounder or oysters or whatever. We've increased our capacity just on retail packaging alone through 1 or 2 machines. We've got gone from 5 to 10 units a minute to 80 to 100 on some of these trays. So that's what we're trying to do, is basically expedite and increase our production capability in these windows. And without IMPEC, we would never have, in a million years, because we've looked at this for 10 years. We've looked at it, we always say we need to fill these windows, we need to have things we can do when we're not producing wild product. And we just never could justify the expenditure or the capital outlay to allow this to happen. And I want to thank Mr. Sam for coming in our door talking about it one day, because my brother and I talked about it forever. And we just basically said we couldn't afford it. And this has allowed us to do what we've dreamed about doing for over 10 years. And we hope that through IMPEC funds that are coming in the future, that we can actually increase our production on some of our other areas, like on our waterfront areas, through a lot more volume than we can possibly do through the plant. And it's just, I don't know how to thank the state enough, how to thank everybody involved with IMPEC, but you know, without this, we wouldn't have achieved some of the dreams that we've been trying to achieve for our retail side of our operation and our basically growth, because when you're dealing with wild product, you're not planting it, you're not growing it. You got to go look it, you got to go find it, and if it's there, you got to be able to harvest it and also process it in small windows. And that's what we've done with this program. It's allowed us to put in the machinery we needed to up our capacities. It's also allowed us to be more instrumental in the eastern part of the state so far as buying. We buy from a lot of different fish houses all over the state, and we process product that we weren't processing before, so we're increasing their volume they can handle. It's just a trickle-down effect everywhere you look all over the eastern part of the state. And once again, I want to thank the state and the IMPEC program for allowing us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And our next speaker sort of combines the topics we talked about. He processes fish, but he raises the fish that he processes. So Rob's going to talk to us about his catfish plant. Rob?
Hi, my name's Rob Mayo. We have a classic seafood group. I started catfish farming back in 1986, and we built the first floor of our processing plant in December of 1989. And we expanded it one time in 1996. So we've been operating the same plant floor for almost for 25 years. 2 years ago, as we faced COVID, our operation was already struggling to manage two very different businesses under one roof. We had our primary catfish processing operation that we've had for 25, almost 30 years. And we also had a new and growing online direct-to-consumer packaging and fulfillment business that we were packaging not only catfish, but also other seafood items. Anybody that's ever been in a fish processing plant knows that it's a really wet environment. We use a lot of water in the process itself, and then in sanitation, we're using hot water, creating a lot of steam within the plant room. And so we have a very high humidity, wet plant. Putting the packaging and fulfillment for our online business together in an overcrowded situation with our primary catfish processing, we were struggling to get the work done at that time as we approached COVID. We had problems with moisture getting in our corrugated shipping materials for the online business. We had personnel up against each other without proper space and distance. And frankly, the catfish margins at that time just didn't warrant the plant expansion that we needed. So we're kind of different from what I'm hearing. What we did was actually expand our plant floor. We put in almost 2,000 square feet of additional plant floor working space. We're able to separate the two operations so that the dry packaging and fulfillment takes place in a different space than our wet primary processing. We also added 1,200 square feet of freezer storage, 3 pallet tier high, which was really important in a business where all of a sudden it fluctuated from almost all fresh to a high degree of frozen business. Since we did that, and looking at the numbers here over the past several months, our catfish volume has increased 13%, sales volume in the wholesale catfish business. The online business has increased 250%, and that's overall our business has increased 44% catfish in the U.S. is in a weird place where it's separated from the rest of seafood. It requires a USDA establishment for processing. So we have some really strict guidelines about that, and we've been able to keep to those guidelines. And one of the things that we had been cited for that we needed to do was to separate those two operations that we have. We've been able to do that, grow significantly, and have plenty of capacity for future growth. Our future needs are going to be on the mechanization, more equipment, because we're just in an area where we're finding it's almost impossible to hire additional employees. We've retained 100% of our workforce. We've added a few people, but we are currently competing with local poultry, for example, large poultry plants. And so we need some more automation, make workers more efficient going forward, and that's going to require additional capital. And that's much.
Thank you, Rob. Thank all of our panelists. We keep that.